pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for safe travels and good health for those of us who are here. Ask you to be with those who are not feeling well. Just give us wisdom and discernment as we make decisions today. Help us to honor you in all we say and do. In Jesus' name, amen.
So council, just to make sure everybody knows, since there's only 6 of us, a tie vote, the motion fails on a tie, correct? Yes. Okay, so keep that in mind, commissioners, as we proceed. We'll move to approval of the agenda. Any amendments or changes?
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion by DJ and seconded by Ms. Torbett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And now the approval of the minutes. Any changes? Motion to approve by DJ. Second by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Ms. Maxwell, on to informal appearances. Who's our first candidate?
Is Cynthia on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you will be first up. I will just read a quick overview, and then we will turn it over to the chair, and then back to you.
Okay.
Okay, applicant Cynthia Keepley and her principal broker, Ed Andrews, are present for the meeting. Ms. Keepley has taken the Tennessee Real Estate Affiliate Broker exam. The firm is Five Stones LLC, doing business as Exit Real Estate Solutions. A summary of the criminal and disciplinary sanction is felony DUI, and a statement and letter of recommendation can be found on your iPad.
Ms. Kepley, this is how this is going to work. So you'll be able to tell us a brief narrative about what brings you before us today, and then each commissioner will be able to ask you questions, and then we'll hear from your broker. He'll explain to us why he feels like you'll be a good addition to his firm, and then we'll be able to ask him questions. Once we're done questioning, we'll vote, and then the results of that vote will decide if you'll be able to get your license or not. Does that sound fair?
Yes, sir.
All right. The floor is yours, Ms. Kepley.
Okay. What was the question? I'm sorry, you were cutting out
that's
on
okay.
me.
This is where you would tell us a brief story about what brings you before us today.
Well, I had my license several years ago. I had my license for about 8 or 9 years, and then I put it in inactive status. And then I decided to get it back. Well, before that, I had a couple years of hard times and got into some alcohol issues, had an addiction problem, and had a couple of DUIs. But since then, I have gone to rehab. I have also, tried to make my life better. I've been very involved in church, and I've just tried to do everything that I could to change my life since then. I have been working with Exit Real Estate Solutions as a transaction coordinator for about 4 years now, and been studying to get my real estate license back, went and passed the exam, and would just really like to get back involved in that.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Jessica, DJ Ferris, thank you for sharing some of your story. How is your sobriety going right now?
It's going great.
Thank you.
I've got a very loving and supportive family and husband of almost 22 years, and 2 children and 3 grandchildren. And they helped me, have kept me to get where I am today. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right, Mr. Andrews.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and tell us about Ms. Kepley.
Sure. Well, full disclosure, she is my daughter. And I did put that when I filled out the letter of recommendation and or the aspect that I had to as a broker. So, but I will say this. First, Cindy has done a great job as a transaction coordinator. She has turned her life around. I mean, as a father, as a grandfather, now a great-grandfather, obviously many of us have had our lives impacted by addiction and alcohol, and it's something no family, nobody should ever have to go through. But I can honestly say, unbiased, she's totally turned her life around. She's turned into an incredible mother, grandmother. She's a very valuable asset to our office as a transaction coordinator, working with our agents on social media, etc. And she's a different person than she was when she was going through that. And we would be proud, very proud, to have her back as one of our affiliate brokers, agents with our office. And she truly has turned her life around. And as far as I know, has been absolutely sober and clean for years and done a remarkable job. And she's a different person today than she was when she was going through that. And I can say that not only as her father, but as a broker. And honestly, if I didn't think that, I wouldn't say it, because obviously I have grandkids and great-grandkids now that would be impacted. But she has done a remarkable job of turning her life around.
Questions for Mr. Edwards? Since there's a motion.
Make a motion to approve this candidate.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Corbett, second by Mr. Ferris, to approve this applicant. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. And,
Thank you.
And good luck to you all. You're welcome to
Thank you
stay.
very much.
You're welcome to stay and listen to the meeting, or you're welcome to hang up and get back to business.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Here now, Ms. Maxwell, our next applicant.
Is Morgan Walters on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. So before you have Morgan Walters and her principal broker, Jacob Price. Miss Walters has taken the Tennessee Real Estate Affiliate Broker exam. The firm is Kings of Real Estate, LLC, doing business as Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. A summary of the criminal and disciplinary sanction is theft by shoplifting. Miss Walters' statement and letter of recommendation can be found on your iPad.
All right, Ms. Morgan, you heard how the last one went, so if you're ready, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today.
Yes, absolutely. First, I'm so terribly sorry for how I sound. I have been sick the last couple of days, so my apologies in advance. My name is Morgan Walters. I'm 26 years old, and I've been a Georgia real estate agent now for just about 2 years. It'll be 2 years in May. And a little bit about me: was a former collegiate athlete. I played softball at the University of Missouri for 2 years, and then I transferred to the University of South Carolina back in 2017. And in 2018, I kind of found myself, my whole world completely upside down following a car accident where I had a pretty bad head injury, concussion. I had to end up medically withdrawing from school, medically withdrawing from my classes. I did 6 months of neurofeedback therapy and ended up losing my scholarship there for medical reasons, and was never cleared to go back and play sports again. So I was all of a sudden trying to figure out what to do with my life. And my father was in the real estate business and is actually the founder of our company, and was generous enough to give me an opportunity to come in and work in his office. And that's when I moved in with my parents in 2018. I think I would have been 21 or 22 at the time, and found myself involved with a group of people from high school that I knew I shouldn't have been. And one day we were at the mall and everyone decided they were going to shoplift from this department store there at the mall. And I was there with them and take full responsibility for being there with them and my choices in that decision. And it was probably the most embarrassing thing of my entire life and incredibly humiliating, having to continue to, sit here and deal with the consequences of my actions from several years ago. But without it, I don't think that I would be here. I don't think it would have pushed me to get out of the frame of mind and just the limbo that I felt like I was in at the time. And since then, I've become a very successful real estate agent, leading my own real estate sales team up here in North Georgia. I got married in August of this year, and my husband is amazing. He's on my team as well. He just got his mortgage loan originator license, so we're going to start teaming up in that aspect, and really want to get into Tennessee so that we can expand our business and help more people. We have a really big opportunity to move one of our franchises into the Chattanooga location, and that's something that's really high on my goal list and would really love to achieve to continue to grow and serve other people in this industry.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, I have one question. This is Joan Smith. So you already have something lined up in Tennessee with the broker, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We have a Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty office out of Knoxville.
The role there will be as an affiliate broker, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right. Mr. Price, it's your turn to tell us why you would like to add Ms. Walters to your firm.
Yeah, so, I've known Ms. Walters through mutual acquaintances for, pretty much since she's been in the real estate industry. So I've always known her to be a good, high-quality person, full of integrity, and I fully stand on, I do believe in second chances. I don't believe in holding someone hostage by their worst day of their life for anything. So by all of my interactions with her, I believe her to be a high integrity person that would be a good fit for our firm.
Okay.
Hey, this is Joan Smith again. I have a question for you. From what I'm seeing, yes, it appears you have quite a few agents in your company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you in charge of education for all of those, or what's your process?
Yes, I'm principal broker, so I'm in charge of education, training, all the normal duties. Currently we have 40 agents in our firm, so it's not some mega shop that we've got 200 agents or anything. But yes, I'm in charge of all that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Ms. Walters, where are you living now? Are you living in Tennessee or?
I'm in Ringgold, Georgia, just south of Chattanooga.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Price, and your firm is in Tennessee or in Georgia?
We actually are. We have a reciprocal firm in Georgia, but we are primarily in Tennessee.
Is that Chattanooga? Or
Our home base is out of Knoxville and Sevierville, but we have expansion agents in Chattanooga as well.
Other questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we accept this.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Torbett. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Ms. Walters, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next is a waiver request. Is that correct? Any other candidates?
No other candidates.
Maxwell, you want to tell us a little bit about this request? Or
Yes. This is one that we recently received, and it was a little bit unique in that it has appeared to come from somebody that he works with. So I don't know if that's due to still current pending health issues, but he is seeking a waiver of the fee due to medical issues that prevented him from renewing his license in January of last year. And so on your iPad, you'll see a summary of his license standing. He does currently have E&O and education, and so the request is just for a waiver of the $1,000 penalty. And you can see a letter there, as well as medical documentation to support the request that they provided.
the $1,000 penalty is the accumulation of fees for not renewing?
Yes. You'll see he's very close to being at the 1 year mark.
And after the 1 year mark, he would have to retest and reapply.
Yes. Although typically if somebody has reached out to, he's very close, but if somebody reaches out to us with a request before, we'll still honor that based on the time that they reach out. But yes, after, if you guys denied it today and he chose not to proceed with payment, then he would be past that 1 year mark and would need to retest.
All right, so he hasn't paid the $1,000 yet.
My knowledge is that he has not yet paid it. We kind of have two options. We can either refund the money or, if approved, we can waive it on the front end and it can just pay the renewal fee.
Questions, Commissioner?
I move to approve his request.
Approval by Commissioner Ferris and second by Ms. Torbett that we approve this medical waiver. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so very much. So the next item on the agenda is PSI question review.
I don't yet see Carolyn on. Sorry, what?
We are moving fast, so we are.
Yeah, we are a little ahead of schedule. I was about to.
Good job, Vice Chair Jeff.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her via email and just make sure she's still able to join. I did talk to her last week and kind of just let her know that the commission was just generally looking for an overview of how the process would work. And so I know she has the invite and is planning on joining. So I'll just reach out to her via email and make sure all is still good.
But we will skip ahead and do the education report. Mr. White, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Hope great day. Call your attention today to the education agenda. Day 1 through 7, providers, courses, instructors.
Commissioners have any classes they wish to pull for discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Tucker, that these education courses be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we have one instructor.
One instructor, Michael Sage.
Questions about this applicant? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ferris, seconded by Ms. Torbett, that this applicant be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You want to go ahead and just do your report, Ms. Maxwell, and then
Sure.
we'll do Commissioner Education?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so I just have a few updates for the commission. The first being, I believe you all should have received an invitation to attend the TNX panel. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to potentially discuss, we will have a moderator this year, and so they had reached out asking for potential topics and questions that might be something that the commission thought would be good for attendees to hear about, discuss. So I wanted to see if anybody had any potential topics. Some of the ones that were sent to me, I can read to the group just to give you some ideas. And then you can let me know if there's any other ideas. And then Marcia had submitted some as well. They suggested explaining the process of filing a complaint, how you can do it, can you do it anonymously, the process on follow-up, how the commissioners decide what the penalty may be, wholesaling, what commissioners perceive to be the most common complaints. If a licensee has a question for the commission or commission staff, what is the best way to get that question answered? And potentially broaching the subject of cash rebates. Does anybody have anything that they perceive particularly pressing that has been a hot topic for them on the commission?
I would say if we address all of these, then we're going to definitely take our time.
All those.
Allotted time.
Yeah.
So, and I think, just comments. I can see. Excuse me. I think that's one of the things that the commission needs to talk about is the purpose of the real estate commission.
Purpose of the real estate commission? Okay.
I don't know, do you think we'll be able to fit in there like and see realtors, but the various associations in terms of what's an ethics complaint versus what is a statutory?
Which is an association complaint versus a Tennessee Commission complaint. And I think that's misleading or misunderstood when we see these complaints. So I think that would be something worth explaining.
Caitlin, is she asking for all the commissioners to be there, or the ones that can be there at 12:45, or kind of what's the goal there? And do they need does she need all of us to be there? And how does this fit into the rest of is this a 1 hour with the commissioners solely, or is it a part of a bigger thing, or what?
So it's one session typically, and the commissioners serve as a panel. And it's been a little bit different in years past. But typically there's a moderator that kind of asks questions to the commissioners. And the questions are typically spread out amongst the commission. And I believe attendees do get CE credit, so it's within the conference. And then typically at the end, they do leave a little bit of time for anybody in the audience to ask a question if they have a pressing topic they want to hear from the commission on. And, you know, there's obviously no requirement to attend, but it is good to have, you know, at least.
But is it, I'm just kind of trying to understand how it's organized so that, I mean, if they ask a question, are they asking a question of a specific commissioner? Are they going to throw it to the floor and everybody kind of just gives their opinion or what?
So,
I
yeah,
speak?
you respect, yeah.
Yes, in times past, lots of years, I think it's important for the commission to have a good, strong presence there. And typically the way it's been is there's a moderator, and that person may open the floor to some of these issues. And then you might want to address one of these issues or someone else on the panel. So if we only have 2 or 3 commissioners there, puts a lot of pressure on the ones that are there. So that's why I
Instead of
encourage,
9
well,
or 7
right.
or whatever.
I think it's important for the commissioners to be there. As a realtor and a commissioner, I think it's important for us to be there. Also,
To be there in full force or to be there
I
as
don't think we only need 3 there. I think
Oh,
you've got
okay.
to have a presence there. It only lasts an hour. That's all they're going to allow you because those people attending want to go on to the next session.
so it's a day long thing?
It's a 3-day thing.
Oh, 3-day thing.
So it's not.
It's the Tennessee Realtors Association state convention, and so there's several days, several panels, several.
it. All
So,
right.
it you know,
Is the time of the I think her letter said 12:45 to 1:45. Is that
11:45 to 12.
I'm sorry. 11:45 to 12. Well, wait a minute. Mine
I
says
think it's 12:45.
12:45 to 1:45.
I'm gonna be in trouble if it's 11:45.
Why?
Because we can't
Well, because it's after our meeting.
Oh, we
So
moved
it's-
our meeting to Tuesday.
Yes.
It's an hour meeting's a 1-day meeting.
Our meeting currently is a 1-day meeting. It is a
Yeah,
1-day
it's
And
meeting.
it's on
12:45.
Tuesday.
And it's on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's
yes.
12:45. I was
Okay.
mistaken.
Yes. DJ, don't scare us off.
Making sure y'all are awake.
I didn't remember that the meeting's on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, thinking I was going to have to get here.
No.
No,
day
the last couple years we've tried to, because previously it would be like at the end of the month, and so we tried to kind of couple our meeting with it so that commissioners don't have to travel in twice.
The timing is to accommodate us, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Day is.
Day and the time.
Yes, I'm hoping, I'm going to see what time we get done today. I think we should be okay.
I've had members tell me with the Tennessee Realtors that this is one of their most favorite things that they do, and they really want us there. And I think it's important that we show up in force.
Cool. All right.
One of the non-adversarial times that they're in front of the commission. So, questions?
Need to make a motion or
No motion. If you think of anything else that you want to pass along that you think is maybe something that you didn't know before you joined the commission, or that you were surprised about with a complaint that you saw that you think would be worth sharing, you can always email that to me and I can get it on the list for us to discuss. The other things I wanted to update the commission on are, I wanted to give a quick E&O update. Currently, we still have about 9,000 licensees that we don't have their most up-to-date E&O policy. And so we will be sending out one more additional reminder, planned to be at the beginning of next week. And some of that could be a little bit of a backlog with people that have potentially paid rice and we're still getting the updated policy. But 9,000 is still kind of a lot. It's a lot. It's about 1/3 of our, a little bit less than 1/3 of our licensing pool. So we will be sending out one more reminder and then planning to run the suspension at the end of the month. So I'll have an update for everybody at the February meeting of how many people were suspended. And then once suspended, they still have 30 days to get a policy in place without a penalty. Then after that 30 days is when the penalty starts to kick in and when their principal broker also becomes responsible if they were without E&O for over 30 days.
Caitlin, is that, have you seen thus far if that is limited to a certain company from which applicants have their E&O, or is it across the board? Like,
I would say it's across the board.
okay, like one company, like Rice is.
Oh, well,
like
so that's
Merkel Corporation's another big one.
That's probably not like wouldn't be completely fair to compare, just because about 80% of licensees have their policy with Rice, and so
okay,
by nature we're going to have a majority expiring right now, and so
it's so the reality is it's on the affiliate, it's not the company.
You mean the insurance company?
Right.
I would say so. We sent, Rice Insurance sent a reminder to all licensees via mail, a postcard, and then also an email around October. And then since then, Trek has sent or included it in somewhere at least two more reminders. And then Rice sent another email reminder in December. So I think all in all, licensees, if we have your updated contact information, should have received 4 reminders at this point.
I thought I saw one in the newsletter you sent out as well.
It was in the newsletter, and then we sent one just solely about E&O. So that's kind of where that stands, and then we'll update everybody again in February.
I remember last year that the department came down asking about how they wanted us to treat firms that have a group policy and
Yes.
additions and subtractions from that group policy.
Yes.
Has that been ironed out or put into place at
It's
all?
been ironed out in the sense that the commission helped clarify that if you're under a group policy, you need to specifically list who is covered under that. There was some discussion at that meeting about whether it should be included within the TREC form and how that would work. That extra step has not been ironed out, but that discussion was helpful in communicating to us and us communicating to licensees that if you're under a group policy, we need everybody listed who's covered.
That person who gives you that list of who's covered.
It's typically the principal broker, sometimes it's the office manager. We don't particularly care as long as we get the list of who's covered and it's in the format that we need it, which if they don't provide in the format we need it, we typically communicate back what format it needs to be in. And if it's a certificate of liability, the individual's name needs to be listed in the reference section at the bottom.
So they have until the end of the month until they're suspended grace.
They have until the end of the month until we run the suspension. And then from there, once suspended, they have 30 days.
30 days.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to update everybody on is a campaign that the Fire Marshal's office is working on and partnering with TREC and home inspectors in an effort to spread more fire awareness and fire safety. They are running a campaign, and you should have a copy on your iPads. Essentially, it's a completely opt-in campaign, but they are offering free marketing materials that real estate agents can add their business card to. And they're at the bottom. They're just some different magnets. And the opt-in program is also kind of a recognition program. And so if you do participate in the program, you take pictures, you have the opportunity to be marketed by the department as participating in the campaign. And I believe there will also be a winner kind of at the end. And so if you participate, you have the opportunity to get special shout outs on social media and the like. And you also get the opportunity to potentially get some free marketing materials, and then also make your clients aware of different fire safety if they're buying a new home, and different awareness. So I just want to make sure the commission knew, and if they had any questions, I could kind of flush them out.
So the potential award winners would be agents that are participating in the program?
Yes, and they're also targeting home inspectors. So I know they're working with the home inspectors program as well, to just kind of add some different home safety items on that checklist, making sure people have fire alarms, smoke detectors, that kind of thing. And so
How is that information being shared?
Which information?
The information about this program to the realtors.
So it has not been shared yet.
Okay.
I was wanting to share it with you guys before it was official. I believe the initial will be shared through my Emma, which is what we also share the email. And so you won't automatically be signed up. If you would like to participate in the program or would like more information, there's an email within here, sfmo.heroes@tn.gov, that you would just reach out to and let them know that you're interested in the marketing materials, and you would like to participate in the campaign.
So you said it's an opt-in.
Yes. Yeah.
So each individual broker would have to opt in order to participate in the program.
If you want the marketing materials and you want the additional information, yes. So basically you opt in, and then they're going to mail you the magnets and the materials so that you can then share them with other consumers and clients.
So I would, like a principal broker, become aware of this program. Is that contemplated?
So that's what that's going to, this whole what I've shared with you is going to be sent out via my Emma, which is the email platform that we use, that the newsletter goes out. And so everybody will get an email about this. And then just, obviously it would probably be wasteful if we sent everybody the magnets and the marketing materials, because as we know, some people will never want to participate. And so due to that, they have made it sort of an opt-in where if you want to participate and you want to spread the awareness and the good news, then you just request through that email.
Do we have any courses, Ross, that deal with fire safety that you could get CE credit for? I have no idea. I just
Matter of fact, yeah, we did have this course. We have to falls, but last August.
Yeah, I think it was maybe in May. So this project has evolved quite a bit. It's something that I have been sort of working on and talking about for about a year. And so it has evolved. And at one time and I think it could still evolve to this. The idea was potentially to have licensees come to a free CE on fire safety, and then at that CE they would also get this material and marketing items to share. And so I think depending on how the campaign goes, it could eventually evolve to that too, where licensees could come to a CE course and then also get the material there.
Meaning how it goes, the popularity of it, and how many
Yes.
if 5 people sign up, then it's
It might not
probably
be
not worth
worthy
it.
of
But
everybody's time.
If 500 sign up, it's a different
Yes,
story. Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So this is, how does this coordinated with the local fire marshal?
So it's interesting. Depending on like where you live, you either have, you know, a volunteer fire department or you have a regular city fire department, I guess is what it would be called. And so the state fire marshal's office oversees all of those. And so that's who we've partnered with on this campaign. And so there's some different things that I believe they're going to share within the marketing materials, like, you know, if you need a smoke detector, that's something that you can typically, I believe, obtain from your local fire marshal's office. The state fire marshal's office also offered a Get Alarmed, which is offering free smoke detectors and fire alarms. So the goal with this project is we have so many different divisions within our department that really kind of overlap. And so I think this is the start of wanting to kind of meld some divisions together that could help share resources and information. Collaborate.
Just to add to that, the Commerce and India.
Yes. Ross actually once worked under the fire marshal's office.
I did. I worked there for 10 years. Called him Chief Captain.
Questions about?
Oh, nothing else.
You're up to the legal consent agenda, but anybody need a break? Have any word from the PSI folks? Or
Nothing yet. She's on Pacific time. So
We may-
very well could not be awake yet because I actually asked about the time. I said, is 10 a.m. going to be too early? And she said, no, that'll be 8 o'clock my time. So that'll be good. So I don't think we'll be hearing from her before
not
10.
in the Montecito,
I don't
Santa
think
Barbara
so.
area, is she?
What?
She's not in the Montecito, Santa Barbara
Yeah,
area, is she?
where the rains are.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think she's in Las Vegas.
It might be 10 or 11.
Okay, so we'll keep going. We'll do the education.
Do the education update. Yes.
And I would just like the record to state once more
15 minutes.
for this session that we don't need 30 minutes or more.
How about this one?
Commissioner Ferris, we'll let you begin.
I'd like to turn your attention to the agenda. I'm all ears, and I'm here to learn.
Yeah, I'll go first. So we just spread out the topics between this agenda and the February agenda, and then if there's other topics that anybody would like more information on or a refresher on, then those can be added to the March. And we had a small change. We were going to discuss sunshine, but there's currently an update on that with legal, and so we're pushing that till February. But just really quickly, I'm going to cover the first topic, and then Anna's going to cover the other two. I'm going to keep mine to under 3 minutes. But the first one is on financials and the budget. And I think a lot of times you guys might hear, well, we can only send 2 people to this conference, or we can only send 3 people and 2 staff members and that sort of thing. And a lot of that has to do with our budget, which is not something that we have the authority over. The authority for all agency expenditures is with the legislature. And we, under the Real Estate Commission, are required to be self-sufficient. And that is by law. And if we were for some reason to be deficient, we would have to go before the Government Operations Committee in the Senate and the House. And I have included our net position statement under my section. It's 06A. And with us being under an umbrella agency, part of our budget is that we share services. So under the state reg fee, you'll see that at the top under the third line item. That is a fee used to cover all of the shared services that we get from being within an umbrella agency, such as like human resources, our fiscal department. And the way that kind of works is that a fee is assessed based on each individual license. And the fee is assessed based on the individual new license and the renewal. And it covers all of the indirect costs with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. And then under the budget, you'll just also see each line item. At the top, you have all of our licensing revenue. And then case revenue is what comes in from the legal report, civil penalties, agreed citations, those sorts of things. And then down below that, you'll see salary cost, technology. So technology can be any of our I've been working on the CE broker project that has involved a lot of IT people. So that's kind of where you'll see that cost. The cost for all of our actual technology or any of the programs we use comes out of that. And then you'll see admin cost backs. So we also share administrative costs. So all of the staff that fall under admin, those costs get billed back as part of our shared services. And most all of these are broken down by volume. So we have a group that helps process all of the complaints that we receive as they come in. And so that cost is broken down by volume, like our volume of complaints compared to other divisions' volume. And then same thing with customer service. And legal is billed hourly, I believe so. Is there any questions about that?
So the state reg fee is so that's essentially going from the real estate department or commission into a bigger pool to reimburse for, let's call it rent, utilities, all those kind of things. Is that wrong or is that right?
Rent we actually get billed directly for.
So we don't have rent on
it's
here.
It's under other.
1,069 in rent?
No. There's a big grouping of things that are all covered under that other section. It's actually the one under seven or under Edison expense total. So no, the reg fee is for like our human resources division, for our fiscal division. Those are individuals. Well, obviously, you know what human resources is all for employee relations, but then our fiscal division, they get all of the mail, all of the money that comes into the building, distribute all of that.
So it's kind of like joint overhead or something similar to that.
Yes.
It's interesting that it's about 10% of our revenue kind of consistently. If let's say our revenue dropped, I'm just curious, by 100,000, do you think that number would go down or stay the same?
It should go down based on the licensing revenue.
So it's more of a variable cost than a fixed cost.
It's a variable cost based on, yes, because my understanding is that the fee is assessed for each individual license issued or renewed.
So the fee, what we pay the state essentially is prorated based on how much we use it? Or
Well, it's really by volume of the licensing. So, does that make sense? I mean, some of those fiscal we would use more or less depending on how many licensees we have. Human resources is really going to be based on staff. But staff is also based on our volume and how many people we need to be able to operate and license.
I have a question. On case revenue, is that penalties or is that monies actually received?
Money's actually received.
Okay, thank you.
So nothing will show up there. And that's why sometimes you are seeing like a high, this isn't necessarily, this is based on when people pay and close out their consent order or their agreed citation.
Oh, it looks like that it's, the department is, I don't know, cash flowing like 70 grand a month or, well, 50, let's call it. That's going into that reserve balance?
Yes. And we have made some different strides towards making that less.
Less buildup or less?
Less. I think it was probably 3 years ago that we reduced the renewal fee to $75. So that was cut at least $5. And then we reduced the initial fee by $20. So we do want to remain relatively conservative because real estate especially seems to jump up and down with the economy. And so we don't want to get in a position where we are deficient. And right now we're pretty much at an all-time high with total licensing numbers. But historically you kind of see an up and a dip. It typically had been every 10 years. The last big dip was in 2008. Y'all are making me go over 3 minutes.
I'm not.
you knew you weren't getting 3 minutes. Glad to know you weren't. Matlock, your turn. Good morning.
Good morning. So I will be taking as much time as I need to discuss complaints and civil penalties. Hopefully it won't exceed Commissioner Ferris's 12 minutes that he requires, but we'll be thorough. So I am just generally going to go over the complaint process from beginning to end. And so the reason that we're moving the Sunshine open meetings discussion to February is because the presentation, if you've sat through it before, which some of you have, it is a PowerPoint presentation, and that PowerPoint presentation has to be updated, and for that to be updated, it has to be approved by people above me. And Caitlin, we were talking and we're like, why don't we just give an overview? And well, I would do that, but we're going to be giving that PowerPoint presentation to all of our boards and commissions. So I didn't want to have to give you guys the same presentation twice. So we're going to give that presentation when it has been approved to provide you all. So we'll go with the complaint process. So the commission receives complaints mostly from a couple of different sources. Our largest source of complaints we receive are going to be consumer complaints. Those complaints come from either the online system from core.tn.gov. Also, we receive complaints through the mail. Not as many complaints through the mail. We also receive complaint referrals from other agencies. You'll see sometimes we have a complaint that has been referred from the Attorney General's office, specifically the Consumer Affairs Division. A lot of you are here, but it used to be housed in this department, but now it's with the Attorney General's division. Also, you'll see some complaints that have been administratively opened. Sometimes this commission will administratively open a complaint. Typically, that's if we open a complaint against another agent based upon a complaint that we have read in a summary from what we've seen, or we open a complaint against a principal broker if it's an advertising complaint. Very rarely do we administratively open a complaint based upon information that's been brought to us, but from an outside information source. But occasionally that does have to happen, but that's very, very rare. Also, we might receive a complaint from a different board within the department. So we might get a referral from home inspectors or contractors or something of the sort. So as Caitlin kind of mentioned, the central hub that we receive complaints from is going to be the Centralized Complaints Division. So they receive all of the complaints, and from that point, what will happen is they process the complaint, and a couple of things happen. The complainant, first we need to make sure the complaint has all of the details, as much information as possible. So sometimes we receive complaints that don't have enough information to move forward. So we'll have people that don't provide enough information, so we're unable to ascertain who the respondent is. Or we'll have an individual that has failed to provide an attachment, or just like failed to state like generally anything. So sometimes when that happens, Centralized Complaints Division will send the information over to me preliminarily, and they'll ask me to make a decision about what to do. In some of those cases, I'll ask them to reach back out to the complainant and ask for additional information. If the complainant's able to do that, then we'll move forward. But if we're not able to do that, then I'll recommend that the complaint be closed for insufficient information. Sometimes if a complaint, I may close a complaint for lack of jurisdiction. That would be a complaint that has absolutely nothing to do with the Real Estate Commission. Sometimes individuals may select the Real Estate Commission, and it has, and it should have been maybe the Contractors Board, or it may have been somewhere else, or it may be something that has to do with a mortgage company. So if it's something like that, those complaints on the front end, most of the time will come through me, and then I will recommend that those complaints be closed on the front end for lack of jurisdiction. But if an individual comes back and for some reason something's been missed through the process, but very rarely do those types of processes work. Also, sometimes the landlord-tenant complaints will come through, but sometimes they don't. So sometimes you'll see them on the legal report, but sometimes they come through me beforehand and they won't make it to the legal report. Sorry, do you have a question? Oh, okay. Or you can ask me now.
Located, are they here?
Yes, they're in the office.
Okay, so they're Tennesseans reading.
Right, they're employees that work with the department.
Yes, they that was implemented under Haslam, and it was just found that if they're only focusing on processing those complaints, and that's their primary job function, they can be a lot more efficient than if they're doing complaints and licensing and customer service and all the things. And so their sole function is processing. They do everything Anna just said.
I have a question. Okay. So the people that are looking at those complaints, they're looking at all complaints that come into the state. So it may not be all real estate.
Right. They're looking at all of the complaints that come into the department. So they have lots and lots of complaints that come in. After that, the complaints are then, depending on the circumstances, will be typically are then sent to the respondent for a response. As you know, in the statute, 62.13.313A1A requires that our respondents submit a response within 10 days. And so respondents then are required to submit a response to the complaint addressing the allegations. If it is an advertising complaint, those complaints, the commission has delegated that those go to Caitlin, and then Caitlin makes the determination if for a complaint to be sent as an agreed citation. If there is a dispute or if there's something that's unclear, Caitlin will then just refer those up to the legal division, and we'll review it through the regular legal process, and it'll be on the legal report. Yes.
How long does it take if I file a complaint and it goes to that central location?
Yes.
How long does it take from it to go there to the department that it needs to go to?
For which department?
Well, let's say for the real estate commission.
So
if I file an anonymous complaint and it goes to that centralized group, then how long will it take from them to look at it for you to actually receive it?
For me to receive it?
Yes.
So if, first of all, if you file an anonymous complaint, you're not going to receive anything ever again.
Okay.
I think that's something that we should clarify for anonymous complaint individuals. So when you file an anonymous complaint, unless you provide some form of information, there's no way for us to get back in contact with you.
Okay.
So we're just going to only process that complaint and go forward. So our centralized complaints division, usually when we get that complaint, they're sending it to the respondent either that day or the next day. So the respondent is getting that complaint almost immediately. So then the respondent has within 10 days to send a response to the complaint. On rare occasions, respondents are permitted to submit request an extension for their responses to us. So typically, if they receive it within it can be, I would say from the legal division, we get it within about 15 to 20 days, 20-ish days. But depending on the volume, it's not going to make it to you. I think we're at about 4 months out now.
Okay. Okay, so if we hear the public or someone licensed or someone say, I filed a complaint, but I never heard anything. So that probably was sent anonymous, and that's why you can't get back to them. Is that correct?
So if the public stated that they filed a complaint and they didn't hear from us, it's probably that we haven't gotten to the complaint yet. It's going to take, we are required to hear all complaints within 180 days. So that's what we tell individuals, that we have 180 days to look at your complaints, which is 6 months. So it's either within the 6 month time frame or that there's some kind of information issue within there, or the complaint has been sent in anonymously. Yes.
When do you get a case number? So if
Immediately.
If a person files, do they get feedback on what kind of status they're in? Meaning, your complaint has got a number of blah blah blah. It's going to be 10 days until you hear back, or you can track it using such and such, or.
So you get a complaint number immediately once it's filed. You're given a complaint number. You're also told the 180-day time frame.
So I'm just curious how a person files an anonymous complaint. I mean, it's anonymous to who?
You go in and you put anonymous, or anonymous@anonymous.com. one.
So when you're filing the complaint, there's a
You
drop
fill
down
in-
box that says anonymous or
Well,
something?
there are different fields that you put in,
Mhm.
like for your name and information, as if you were like filling in shipping information, you know, for
Right.
a website. So you would just put in like Joe Smith 1234 at Joe Smith Avenue at Joe Smith, Alabama 12345.
But we don't go back and try to figure out what email it's coming from or anything like
No,
that.
like obviously if it's like a fake email, we'll know that, or it'll bounce back as a fake email.
One last, so the Better Business Bureau, do you ever get referrals from them that somebody files a complaint with them and they say, you need to be talking to the Real Estate Commission, or no?
I haven't seen one from the Better Business Bureau, but if someone has filed something with the Better Business Bureau, they will tell us.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So if I file a complaint with
Yes.
my name
Yes.
against Steve,
Yes.
are we both notified at the same time? I'm notified that you received my complaint and he's notified as a respondent, or
Yes.
just one
Yes.
or the other? We're both responding.
Yes.
Okay.
And you will know that you filed the complaint.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So if the respondent doesn't, so the respondent receives information, and then they're given 10 days, they're sent a past due notice, and then after a certain amount of time after the past due notice, it's referred to the legal division without a response, and then we summarize the complaint, and then those are the summaries that you receive on the legal report, that you see that it says the respondent did not provide a response. Okay, and so we've got the responses. So the respondent is aware of the response. Once the respondent provides the response, it is then sent to the complainant, so they have a copy of that response from the respondent. At that time, the complainant can submit a rebuttal if they would like. That is then sent to the respondent, and then everything is referred back to the legal division. So the complainant and the respondent have a copy of everything that's in the file, and we have a copy of everything that's in the file as well. So we have a copy of everything that's in the legal division. We take a look at everything that's in the file at that point. We look at everything. If there's any additional information that we need, we can contact the complainant, the respondent. We can send it out for investigation, do any of those types of things that we need at that point. We summarize the information anonymously, and then it is presented to you after analyzing the rules and laws, and then you get a summary. And so the different types of recommendations that we provide to you, so I'll go over the discipline really quickly so we know the different types. We have letters of instruction. So those, as we know, are just, this is information that we don't really think there's a violation. Well, there is probably information that I would say a letter of instruction is this is kind of like precarious. You should probably not do this, but I don't think it rises to the level of a violation. So this is something that you should be aware of. A letter of warning, I would say that this is something that we do find to be a violation, but we don't think it rises to the level of a formal discipline. Letters of warning do not appear on the public disciplinary action report, so it's considered private discipline. So that is just like a private reprimand. It's a letter, and that's it. And then anything where we are requiring the respondent to act or to do something goes in a consent order. So if we're requiring the respondent to take a course, take a class, or if we're going to suspend a license, revoke a license, or send or assess a civil penalty, then those are going to be sent out in a consent order. The schedule for civil penalties, that is going to, if you guys have your, I don't know if you have your books in front of you, but it should be around page 85. It's Rule 1260-02-.32. So it lays out the different civil penalty amounts based on the statute or rule violations. Essentially, the maximum amount per violation is up to $1,000, and it varies from 50, the minimum of 50 or 250 to 1,000. So per violation, and depending on the violation, that can be assessed also per day. Also, if you look at the civil penalty rule 2, it will give you the determining factors that should be considered when assessing a civil penalty. Those are provided to you in 4A through E. And those I'll just go over really quickly. It states in determining a civil penalty, A, whether the amount imposed will be a substantial economic deterrent to the violation, B, the circumstances leading to the violation, C, the severity of the violation and the risk of harm to the public, D, the economic benefits gained by the violator as a result of noncompliance, and D, the interest of the public. So that's generally the civil penalty information. So individuals are provided 30 days to comply with a with a consent order once it has been sent. Failure to comply with a consent order first results in a notification will remind them, hello, you have not signed the consent order, so another reminder. And then after that, we file what's called a notice of hearing and charges with the Administrative Procedures Division, which is the court, and we proceed with proceeding with like a hearing type measure. So certain matters are held before this commission, and certain matters have been delegated to an ALJ, that's administrative law judge alone. The only two matters that this board has delegated to an ALJ alone are unlicensed activity and E&O. So E&O and unlicensed activity, those will never be before you. Those will just be between either one of us, the respondent, and maybe their counsel and administrative law judge. Any other violations, you will sit, it will be before you all in a proceeding. Any questions? Yes.
How do you send notices?
So a consent order is sent out. We send out everything via email and also via U.S. mail.
Return receipt requested or no?
We don't send out return receipt requested only for notice of hearing and charges. But all complaints are sent out return receipt requested.
And those complaints are sent to the agent and the broker?
Sorry,
if it's a license.
All complaints are sent. A complaint is sent out to the agent and to their principal broker, but the principal broker just gets a notification. They're no longer required to provide response, but they do get a notification. Occasionally, we do get responses from principal brokers, but they do not have to respond.
Seems like we get a few every month where the complainant essentially doesn't have a case or doesn't, they're confused on who they should be talking to, and so it comes before us. Can you, how does that work when you're talking with a complainant and you say, you know, ma'am or Mr., your issue is not with the Tennessee Real Estate Commission. It's you need to talk to an attorney, and this is a contractual matter. How does that work vis-a-vis what we see or not see?
So at the end of every complaint, so after something's been dismissed, Centralized Complaints Division then sends out a notice to let the complainant and the respondent know that a complaint has been closed. Very often we receive notification either from the respondent or the complainant asking information of why their complaint was closed. At those instances, usually what happens is we'll start first with sending them an excerpt from the legal report. So they'll get to see a copy of what we've written. And at that point, typically in our summaries, they'll see that we believe it's a contractual issue and then it would not fall into the jurisdiction of the commission. Typically, that is not enough. And then usually at that point, either I will talk to the complainant, send them an email and explain further, that this is not something that would fall into the commission's jurisdiction. But one thing that we do have to make clear to both respondents and complainants is that we're your counsel and that we're not able to provide legal advice. And so that if they have any further questions, that they should seek outside counsel at that point.
How much of your time does that take?
It depends, but it can take a great deal of time afterwards, especially if it's something because I know that some of the complaints may seem very frivolous to you, as it may not fall into the jurisdiction of the commission, but usually if someone has taken the step to go and fill out the complaint information, it does mean quite a lot to them. So they are actually usually very upset and very aggrieved. And so when I'm speaking to someone, they're going to be very upset. And when they see that it's been dismissed, they're upset. So I've engaged in a lot of back and forth before. And so it really depends, but it can take a lot of time.
Yeah, I can sense that it would, and I'm just, this is not our place, I don't think, but if there's any way to try to help create some framework that streamlines that, whether it's better educating the public through 10X panels that says here's what the commission does, here's what the statutes apply to. I don't know.
I mean, there's always the education piece. We have the information on the website, and we try and provide as much information and detail as possible, in our summaries. But there's always going to be a piece that there is missing, or there may be a miscommunication because, sometimes someone needs to take responsibility for what has happened, and if it's not this entity, then who? And if because I can't answer that question, because I cannot, that's not my job, that is going to be their source of frustration. If I could tell them, if they're then who do I go to? And I'm well, go to X, Y, and Z, but I can't do that. Then, that I think that also provides a lot of frustration too.
It's almost like this is so oversimplified, and it's probably been done before, but when the notification goes back to the complainant and the respondent that the complaint has been dismissed, to at that time have a one-page summary with an excerpt, go ahead and preempt this perhaps and say,
well, we try not to, we don't do that because that would cause a lot. It would take a lot of extra time for our centralized complaints division, and a lot of people it only happens every so often.
Okay.
So we just provide it to the people that need it. So
which makes sense.
But also, the information is available in our minutes the meeting after. So it is public afterwards. It's just that interim time between this meeting and the next.
So the complainant and the respondent are aware when their case is going to be heard?
Not necessarily, but if they have been asking, if we've been in contact with them, we can tell them it's slated for this month. We can provide that information. Yep, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Good job.
Rick? Going to test for 10 minutes for a break. Come back at 5 after the hour, 10:05.
So is everybody back?
Yes, we're all back, and we are ready. We have Carolyn from PSI. She is, well, Carolyn, I'll let you introduce yourself. And then.
Is that you, Caitlin?
This is Caitlin, yes.
Okay, I didn't see your name anywhere on the participant list, but there was only one that was just a number, so I thought that must be you.
Yes. We've had to finagle our system to work with Teams. So we are using our main phone number for the conference room that we're in.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, I will introduce myself. My name's Carolyn Moore-Musso, and I'm a test developer with PSI, and I have been working with the Tennessee Real Estate Licensing Program ever since Tennessee became one of our clients, and I'm not sure exactly how long ago that was, but it's at least 10 or 12 years and maybe longer. Because I've been there several times to review the exam. And I understand that pretty much everybody in this meeting and on this commission right now is new to the process of exam maintenance and development. And so I offered to come and answer questions you might have about it. I also have a little sort of PowerPoint presentation about what the steps are in test development, and it goes into a fair amount of detail, which we can skip some of. We can just look at the broad outline. But first, I wanted to ask you if anybody has specific questions that they wanted to ask.
So I think my understanding from our last meeting was that everybody was generally wanting to understand the process of.
Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and launch my PowerPoint if I can be made a co-host so I can share my screen.
I guess my biggest question, for sake of direction, and thank you for joining us, Carolyn. I'm DJ Ferris. Is the process of the question review, right? That's what we talked about. That's really the main focus, main question I have, and in the interest of your time and ours.
The general picture is that there is more than one way to organize it, and it can also be done either virtually or in person. And Caitlin and I have discussed this a little bit, but what I will tell you is that you have, if we decided we wanted to review all of the items in the Tennessee state portion exam, you have about 260 or 70 questions, which we call in test developer talk, we call those items because they might be a question, but they might also just be an incomplete sentence. So to review that many items would probably take in person 2 full days, or in webinars probably about 3 to 4 hour sessions. Or the other option is that we can select particular topics that we want to look at, or choose items that are performing poorly or are difficult, or items that candidates have commented upon, and limit our review to those items that seem to have some kind of an issue. You do not have very many items like that. Candidate comments I haven't looked at yet, and that would add some more to it. And then we could also decide to review topic areas in which practice may have changed, or where you've had legislative changes or rule changes. And that way we could do an in-person review in a day or a little less, and probably only have to have 1 or 2 webinars to do it. Caitlin and I had been thinking about a 1-day in-person meeting there in Nashville with me bringing to you only the items that seem to have some kind of issue, and then possibly choosing a couple of areas. For example, wherever you have the most disciplinary issues is one way of choosing a topic. Sometimes we do agency questions in any jurisdiction, just because that's an area that seems to be changing all the time. And then I would, of course, bring any items that seem to be very difficult. The process of actually doing the review, I would cover more in my presentation if I could, because I have materials that I think would answer a lot of your questions about that.
So I think another motivation for having Carolyn join us this morning is we wanted to figure out kind of how many commissioners would participate in that kind of review, when, how many days. So
yeah, so Carolyn and I spoke last week, and we discussed kind of who's participated historically, and historically it has been 2 commission members, and then we've pulled industry members and tried to get an industry member from each sector of the state. And she and I discussed 7 as being a good number. You obviously don't want too many or too few, especially when you're voting and discussing questions. But we did discuss it being favorable to have somebody from each jurisdiction, just because the way that sometimes people do things in different jurisdictions is different, and what might be more of an issue in West Tennessee might not be an issue in East Tennessee, et cetera. And then obviously staff participates historically to the director, either education director, board attorney, that sort of thing.
when you say industry, you mean the test vendor industry? Or?
No. I mean having somebody that's not on the commission but is a licensee. Yes.
Practitioners is what we mean by industry representative.
And the jurisdictions, you're talking about the 3 grand divisions?
Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of what we discussed, and we had also discussed trying to potentially do it with a commission meeting, so that if we had people that were out of town, it wouldn't be traveling, and not opposed to a virtual meeting. It had just initially sounded like the virtual meetings take many more sessions, and so that's an option too. It just might take longer. And we discussed that time we had that meeting that lasted
8:30.
10 hours. There's a limit to how long somebody can be engaged.
Right.
On.
Yeah, we won't even schedule them to go for more than 4 hours at a time, and that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, it would be my
So we
thought to have
probably
it in
need at
person.
least two.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does this only relate to licensed real estate agents, or is this timeshare people? Or
It's a separate test.
separate.
Yep. She and I did discuss the timeshare exam as well. And so that might be one that we review after this one. But this one is focused just on real estate. Yep.
So it seems like we have, Carolyn, in your brief statement, you said that we have the opportunity to review all of the items, or we have an opportunity to review specific items that may have been complained about by the test takers, or out of date or anything like
Perform
that.
poorly.
Perform poorly.
Right, yeah, statistically, they're not performing the way we would want.
So would you then, I guess, look at the exam that we have with you presently and determine which items should be reviewed?
Yeah, I would do that. We review your item performance statistics on a regular basis anyway, like quarterly. And you have only a very few items that appear to be difficult or to be really poor predictors. So mostly I would be looking at items from topic areas where you have disciplinary actions happening, or there have been rule or law changes, or if candidates have complained, because I haven't looked at candidate comments in a while.
Okay, so from your perspective, there's a threshold in terms of a number of items that have been performing poorly that you would then come back to the jurisdiction and say, we need to review these questions?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, we have specific standards that we expect from items, and if they don't meet those standards statistically, we like to either revise them or eliminate them and write new items to replace them. And one thing that we might do if it turned out that we didn't have a huge number of items that needed to be reviewed is that we might spend some time in an in-person review trying to write some new items to replace weak ones, or to, if there's new regulation, to add items to cover something that isn't currently on the test, or if you decided you wanted to somewhat change the balance of the topic weighting on the test, that's also part of an exam review, is to review the content outline and specifications to see whether it seems like it's too heavily weighted in some area and not enough in another, or whether there is some area of regulation that is related to an area of practice that's just like, we have removed pretty much most of the MLS items from most states' tests because it's not as, and all the ones about sub-agency, because that's not being used much anymore.
Question.
Go ahead, Steve.
Would the meeting be a public meeting? How does that
It
work?
could not be a public meeting.
It cannot be a public meeting.
Right.
And so
How do we get around that?
Carolyn and I have talked with legal about that, about whether if we're able to have two commission members. We don't think it will be an issue, but I would suggest maybe us having a primary and an alternate, and then having both included if it's approved by legal, and then having only one if it's going to be an issue.
Like her slideshow can't be public.
Oh, it could be.
It could.
My presentation today is not confidential material.
Ah, okay.
It's just about the process of doing this.
So looking at our test and our exam, you don't think at present time that we need to do to review any items, or there's not enough items to review?
I think there are enough items that you should take a look at, and I understand that it's been since 2017 was the last time that we had an exam review. And at that time, we didn't do the whole bank either. We did problem items and items that related to a law change around that time. But anything that's changed since then, the exam has not been updated for that because nobody has looked at those items or let us know.
So how many questions are on the test? 75? No.
270.
No, that's her pool.
I think on your state portion test there are 60 items, or maybe it's 60 for broker and 50 for affiliate broker. I'm not sure.
So your pool of items is, what'd you say, 270?
So our pool of items is at least 5 times as many items as you have items on your test.
Okay, 5. All right.
And it's probably not evenly distributed. There probably aren't 5 items exactly for every item position, but the average is, because you have more than 270 items.
I guess, Caitlin, the question becomes timing, and I guess the logistics have to be worked out for that.
Yes. She and I had discussed trying to get it done within the first quarter to beginning of the second quarter, sometime before summer, and trying to pair it with a commission meeting.
Maybe adjacent to the March meeting?
We said adjacent to March or potentially April. So I don't know if anybody is itching to participate.
I think I volunteered last meeting.
Okay. Yes. And then if there was an alternate that also wanted to participate, and then just make sure you're available either the day before or the day after the March or April meeting.
Here's to be the alternate.
I can be the alternate, I think. I'm just.
Yeah. So I think the March meeting is
8th.
Yeah, so either potentially the 7th or the 9th. Before? Oh, because we have It might even be worth looking at April, too, because we do, as of now, potentially have a hearing, which could end up being 3 days in a row. So it could be worth looking at the April meeting, which would be April 11th or 13th.
I'm better on April than March if it's after.
Okay. Well, I think if we are potentially going to have a hearing, 3 days in a row could be too much.
Let's do April then.
Okay. DJ, does April 11th or 13th work for you? I don't know if we need to have a vote. Carolyn, would April 11th or 13th work for you?
It's really up to you. I can be available for either of those dates.
Okay. The other
are
thing
they a Tuesday and a Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Either of those will work.
The other thing that we'll need to do is try to get a well-rounded industry pool. And I believe in the past they potentially reached out to associations in different jurisdictions and tried to see if they had anybody willing to do it.
Caitlin, I also found a list from, remember I told you the list of the people who came to the last one?
Yes.
I also found the list of the people who were invited.
Okay. I
which
think
is about 3 times as many
Marcia had
people.
thought that it was potentially presidents from different associations. No?
It doesn't seem to me that was the standard, but I'll send you the list of names and maybe you'll know some of those people or that were invited last time, and we would have been prepared to have a larger group than we had last time if more people had accepted, but they didn't, and so everybody who accepted was included.
Well, if anybody has any ideas, I'm open to. I think what we're looking for is just a well-rounded group, and we don't want it to necessarily be just commission.
Maybe we can ask people.
Yeah, it would be good to have a mix of specialties too. Like if there's somebody urban who does commercial property, somebody rural who does farmland and stuff like that. It's good to have a mix, even though I know the majority of your licensees probably just do single-family residential.
Be a good group of people at 10X next month. We can ask if any volunteers from there. Might not get anybody, but you can ask.
Yeah, I can reach out to the executive directors or CEOs of different associations and see if they have anybody in mind.
About the education.
Yeah, sometimes associations do have, people who are real involved that they like to recommend.
And as a suggestion, maybe not two people from the same association.
No, I think it would just be one. I think we're essentially looking for one from West Tennessee, one from East Tennessee, and one from Middle.
But if I was the one, then I wouldn't want to see someone else from my association be on the panel also.
So do you mean like with the commission?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Or even at large.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We have Steve, who is with MAR.
Yes.
So it needs to be somebody from West Tennessee, I think, that's
not
in
in
MAR.
Yes.
I don't think we need to particularly see your PowerPoint.
Okay.
I think we could.
So let me just tell you quickly.
DJ enjoy the PowerPoint presentation in April, and then.
I was going to say too.
Okay.
Marcia may want to do this. And I'd be fine to defer as the alternate to Marcia if she wants to, since she's not here today. She was vocal about this, the importance of this, and what she would echo.
And she has done it before, and she has also participated in our national exam development. I mean, your state portion exam, which is we would only be looking at your state items. And your state portion exam is what we would call a mature exam program. That is, it's been in place for a long time, and for the first several years it was in place, it was reviewed more frequently, so that we think we've weeded out most of the problems, and the only thing is that we have not updated it recently, and things do change.
So in terms of the scope of the review in April, are we just going to look at the problem items, or are we going to look at the entire pool of questions? Do you think there needs to be?
What will happen is that I would bring the entire pool, and we would start by looking at the problem items and the items that candidates have commented about, and then we would go to the most volatile topics, perhaps agency, and anything else where you might have had legislative or regulatory changes. And then we would just start, with the balance of the items and get through as many as we could in the time if we hadn't determined that we needed to delete items and write new ones. Writing new ones would be the first order of business if we lost a lot of items by deciding that some of them were outdated.
Would you know ahead of time the legal and regulatory changes that might impact the questions?
Caitlin was going to send me everything that has gone into effect since the last time we reviewed the test. I don't have it yet, but I will know.
Yes, just to reiterate what Carolyn said, the last time they reviewed this was 2017, so we'll need to add any changes that have taken place since then.
I make one other request. If we do, it sounds like April, could we do the 11th meeting Tuesday, which would allow, because we're coming in Tuesday anyway, you come in earlier on Tuesday, and then you only have to stay the same night.
Yeah.
Follow me?
I think
opposed
Tuesday
to
makes
Thursday.
sense too, because
Yes.
you could have a really long meeting on Wednesday and then just want to head on home.
Correct. Yes.
So
yeah,
Tuesday,
I mean, we probably do need a full day unless it's many fewer items than I expect. So it'd be getting in pretty early on the 11th.
like it started at 9 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 8:30 or 9
Yep.
usually.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. I think that's all. I'll follow up with you and be in touch. But as of now, we'll tentatively plan on April 11th.
Okay, great. So I will put that on my calendar, and then I'll send you that list of all the people who were invited for the maybe the last two previous meetings or so. At least everybody was invited the last time. And then if you will get me a list of any rule changes or new laws in the last, well, it's now 6 years. Okay.
Yes, will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
We are going to move on to the legal and consent agenda. So we have a number of cases that have been pulled. I'll go ahead and read those. Case numbers 5, 9, 12, 16, 18, 28, 32, 33, 34, 35, and it goes all the way to case 44. Yeah, 35 through 34. Cases 36 through 44 seem to be all related. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll consider those en bloc and dispose of them as one. 5. Approval of 5. Does anybody have any other additions or subtractions? Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
The motion is to accept council's recommendation on the cases other than those cases that have been named. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Kathy did. Yes. Hearing none. All those are in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We will start with case number 9. Commissioner Ferris, that's you.
Thank you, Chairman. For 9, I just wanted to recommend we issue a letter of warning to the respondent to take better care in their practice of labeling lots. And this seems like the complainant has a valid concern, and perhaps they owed some more communication, better communication on their part, but the respondent does, to me, seem like they needed to have sought after their client, the complainant's interest in a more full manner to really have an understanding of what size these lots were going to be that they were going to receive. And I know they can't control what the buyer did, but that's all I would have to say, and I'm open to hearing the other commissioners' thoughts.
Council's recommendation was to dismiss. Yeah, I don't see any intent at all on part of the respondent to mislead. It was probably just something got lost in the blurry of the transaction. So I'm okay with the letter of warning.
What statute? What like?
Reasonable skill and care. Move for the respondent to be issued a letter of warning regarding the better practice of reasonable skill and care. I don't know the statute number, but I trust you do.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Ferris, second by Commissioner Tucker for a letter of warning in this case. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we're on to number 12. Let's go. All right, so so I understand the narrative. So this is the respondent is a Florida resident, and they waived into a Tennessee license, or they got a license through reciprocity?
They had a Florida license previously. I'm not sure if they're a Tennessee resident or not, but then they became licensed in Tennessee and then went on to get the principal broker license in Tennessee, based in part upon
the issue is here that they felt like they weren't required to take the continuing education.
Yeah, that's correct. On September, the commission had discussed on October 29th of, I'm sorry, August 20. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Some type of glitch within the system, and they gave everybody a blanket time frame in which to get their continuing education. You all may remember this, and that expired on December the 30th of 2022. This person, as principal broker, was required to get 120 hours of post-broker continuing education within 3 years of the date of obtaining the original license. That principal broker did not do that and was lacking 48 hours, and the principal broker was sent an agreed citation on September 16th of last year, stating such, and that the principal broker had been given the additional time by the commission till December. That has not happened.
For this, given the extra time that they were given to comply, that pool of 50, I think it was, that we were talking about when we discussed this the last time, I think I'd like to hear a motion or entertain a motion to downgrade this license to affiliate broker, if anybody agrees with that. Downgrade it and let them restart.
Question. So the 120 that we gave in September 16th of 22, he did, or she did 48 hours of the 120, correct?
And then my understanding.
So which would put him 72 short of the 120, and now we're adding 48 to the 72, or the 48.
Okay, I just got some additional information. I'm not. The principal broker was lacking 48 hours that the person needed to take, and I'm just getting information that
they have completed it as of the 28th. This one originally disputed that she owed the 120 hours in the first place and had asked to be sent over to be presented to the commission. And so we sent it over to legal to present, as at that point it was disputed. But I guess the licensee ultimately decided that they were just going to go ahead and do it. So
they completed their 120 hours.
They completed, the commission authorized, I think it was roughly 90 days for licensees to complete the remaining that they were missing from the 120. So this licensee was missing 48. Originally wrote in disputing that they ever owed it, and wanted it to be presented to the commission so then it was sent to legal.
The interim, the 48 hours were completed.
Yes.
By deadline. By deadline.
By deadline.
Okay.
You will likely be seeing more like this, though, because we are now beginning the audit process, and any of those that did not reach out to say that they have completed them will be coming forward.
With that new information, the chair would entertain a motion to dismiss.
Make a motion to dismiss.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Torbett, seconded by Mr. Ferris, that this case be dismissed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, if you're following along.
I pulled this case, and as upon second review, I moved to accept council's recommendation to close case 16.
I have a motion to close by Commissioner Ferris, seconded by Commissioner Torbett. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 18. I think that was me. All right, so when I reviewed this case, see four basic allegations. One, that there was advertising for RV as a full hookup and wasn't. Half-acre landlocked panel parcel. Concerns about a septic system and the neighbor property being connected to the water meter. So is there anything in the record that shows the respondent had any prior knowledge that any of these situations existed at all?
No.
No. I'll entertain a motion to close.
I make a motion to close this case.
Motion by Commissioner Fitz, seconded by Commissioner Tucker to close this case. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 28 is also mine.
Do we have number 19
Not on my list, but we can talk about it if you want.
on there? Yeah, I had pulled case 19, and this is again an issue regarding lots and property lines, whereas the first earlier case was about the size of the lots and how that might have been presented more clearly. This case regards two vacant lots, and the complainant purchased one thinking they were purchasing another one. And again, just a letter of warning to practice better skill and care to this respondent is my motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ferris, seconded by Ms. Smith to issue a letter of warning for reasonable skill and care. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I want to say I appreciate, I'm not sure, Anna, if it's your job, but whomever is referring back to number, like when we have 2 or 3 case numbers and they relate in a prior complaint, giving us those numbers sure is helpful when we're trying to struggle and find that case number. Appreciate that.
So the question that I had about number 28 is, do we know how much time elapsed between the application and the issuance of the license? Because this is the one about the vacation lodging services. There was a company was bought on September 1st, and they didn't have a license, and they applied for a license on the 2nd. Is there any?
The respondent applied. They bought the company on the 1st. They applied on the 2nd. I don't have that listed. How much time elapsed? I remember seeing it. I didn't list it in the narrative. and licensed.
Right. So does a violation, if there's an application made, is that still, if they're still practicing, is that a violation of statute still, or do we kind of give them a little grace there?
If there's an application pending,
Yeah.
license.
They did business during that period of time, then they're practicing without license.
That is correct.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
We're gonna look this up. It's got it.
I have one more question. If that was the case, how do you determine if they were doing business? Do you just ask, hey, did you do any business during this period of time, or do you have a record, or how does that?
The respondent stated that the respondent was in violation in the response. I don't think this person did anything willfully. Happened.
I move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion to accept council's recommendation. What was that?
28.
Council's recommendation of a $200 civil penalty, seconded by Commissioner Gwen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 32. All right, so this has to deal with somebody holding earnest money. So I guess the question, do you know in the record if the earnest money was ever dispersed or interpled? So, rule, as I understand it, allows the broker to disperse. Who was holding it? Was it a title company or was it the broker?
It was
To the buyer, rather.
I mean, to the buyer, yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, DJ.
That, Chair will entertain a
Move to accept council's recommendation to close case 32.
motion by DJ, seconded by Ms. Torbett, that we accept council's recommendation. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 33, DJ, that's yours?
Yes, I pulled this, and case 33 regards a.
Commissioner, just a second. 33 and 34 are related. You want to consider them in block?
Let me look at 34 for a moment. Yeah, we can. Well, I've got two recommendations I wanted to make for us to consider. So if we can do those in one. Okay.
Yeah, well, if Anna lets us do it that way.
Yeah. So for case 33, I just felt that it seemed like the respondent tried to make an effort to get transaction desk with the new logo changed, and having done that, opening and closing a firm, I have had that experience. Not their experience, but it's not as automated as you would go and do many other things we've become accustomed to online. So I have some empathy there. So I was just going to recommend a $500 penalty as opposed to $1,000 for case 33. And then for 34, I suppose I would say the same because it's the same. It's the same. So I would
I don't disagree at all with what you're saying, but we would need two separate motions.
Okay, we can do that.
I move for case 33 to issue a $500 civil penalty to that respondent.
Motion, I have a second? Okay. A motion by Mr. Ferris, seconded by Ms. Tucker, that we issue a $500 civil penalty on case number 33. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Case number 34, DJ.
I move for the respondent to be issued a $500 civil penalty, case number 34.
Second by Commissioner Ferris. Second by Commissioner Torbett, that we issue a $500 civil penalty in case number 34. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Case 35, Commissioner Ferris.
Yeah, this I might be prepared to accept council's recommendation, but I just wanted this to be on the record, and other commissioners might be able to speak to this more accurately. But this should go out to our community of brokers and affiliates across the state to be wary and mindful what you say online and how you say it and how it reflects on the industry, how it reflects on your own practice. But then I know on a higher level with the National Association of Realtors, efforts have been made to police a lot of this stuff, which that's a different discussion for a different time for my own views about that. But it is something that licensee holders need to be aware of. And I kind of feel like it's not worth our time to issue a letter of warning to this individual. Maybe they'll watch this. They probably won't. So just do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And that's what I'll leave. I'll make a motion to accept council's recommendation to close item 35.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Ferris, seconded by Commissioner Smith, to accept council's recommendation on case 35 to close. Any further discussion?
Yes. I think this is one of those instances where complaints are, this is just rambling. I think this is one of those situations where we receive a complaint that really doesn't affect us. It should go to the local association. So those of us that are listening, hopefully will understand that sometimes a complaint, you don't necessarily have to push the button to send a complaint to TREC. You need to go to your local association and express your concerns.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. All right. Cases 36 through 44 also relate to billboards, but it's separate cases, but it's one or two respondents.
Just a moment.
Sure. I understand that you probably need separate motions for each one.
The billboards you're referring to are the big electronic billboards.
Okay.
They're the same advertisement, just different face, different name.
Face, different name, different billboards.
But all
we're talking about cases 36 through 41.
Yeah. 44 is separate.
Okay.
Are we talking about 36 through 41 right now?
And 47 and 40. That group.
So are you saying that the complaint was filed by the same person, but for different boards? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, it's separate complaints.
On an electronic billboard. Or signs.
They were all done with Lamar, right? That seems to be the common link.
That is correct.
Okay.
So
total?
Font size of the one line or of the sum of both lines?
Well, what he's saying is like if this
Right.
is ABC,
Now, he's saying,
firm, then that, they measured that, and then if my name was down here, then this is larger than.
okay,
So who does the error?
I know what I'm saying, wondering
Who
is,
does the error lie with?
is
I guess
this
is my question.
greater
No,
or equal to this?
No.
smaller.
This is smaller?
Smaller. They added the two together.
Principal broker is responsible for all advertising, so
Agent.
Well, a broker sent information in that said it has to be like this. And then Lamar chose to do what they did, where a double line is bigger than one line, if that makes sense.
But it's still the broker's responsibility to review that before it's posted.
Right. So, like, if the ad is wrong, you need to have the ad taken down.
I would think electronic would be pretty easy to.
Right. So we had this conversation a while ago about ads and how they're very expensive to take down. And at that time, we were talking about like physical ads. And so we were like, yes, they're very expensive, but you know, the advertising rules are what they are. And so if it's an electronic ad, I'm not sure exactly how those go, but if the rule says, you know, it must be, it's in violation, the ad has to come down. So if Lamar or whoever it is telling you this is what it has to be and it's in violation of our rules, then your ad cannot go up. So the reason that the complaint was open against each of the individuals is because their individual name and their face. So that would be a violation against them. And then it's in violation against their principal broker because, you know, all advertising is under this direct supervision of the principal broker.
So all of these complaints, the respondents are one firm. They're just different names and faces in that firm?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's one complainant, one firm, a lot of different affiliates, and yes.
Say a lot.
So each of 36...
So we have 6 billboards. There's
yes,
6 affiliates.
Yes, right.
Okay. The reason why we try to be so precise, for me anyway, is, as Anna stated earlier during the Commissioner Education, each day is a separate violation. Can be, if we decide so. Is that correct?
Can be.
It can be.
Doesn't mean it should be.
Okay.
For the record, the respondent stated these ads ran from August the 8th through September the 4th.
By my count is 27 days.
I mean, it can be an individual, you know, day count, but again, when we talked about the different factors we should consider for assessing civil penalties, we're talking about an advertising violation, and yes, we're talking about font size.
Important for people to understand what they're in jeopardy of.
Right. We do think it's important and what they're in jeopardy of, but I do think at the end of the day, if the necessary, I mean, I want to be very clear, following the rules is important, but I don't think it is important to assess a civil penalty for each day for an advertising violation, when I think the most important information is to make sure the correct information person for advertising.
Totally agree.
So, as serving as chair at this meeting, I'm not going to make a motion, but for the record and just for the education of people maybe listening, I did the math on it. And if we were to go and throw the book at them, it would be 27 days times the recommended civil penalty of $500 times 6 billboards. And that would come out to about $81,000 if we were to decide to do that. I'm not advocating for that, but I just want to let people know what they're in jeopardy of and to take the advertising rules seriously, please.
And I would advocate strongly against that, just for the record.
I'll make a motion to accept council's recommendation on whatever numbers, the 36 through 41 and 47 and 48.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Torbett, seconded by DJ Ferris, to accept council's recommendation on cases 36 through 41 and cases 47 and 48. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. On to case 42, which is also related to advertising.
So
Okay, let me look.
40,
And I think about 42.
40,
We
oh
have
yes,
42,
42,
43,
43, and
44.
44. 42,
So
43.
nobody pulled those. They just got lumped
They
in.
were pulled
I pulled them,
because
but they got lumped in.
yes.
Okay, so nobody pulled them individually. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Do you want me to make a motion? Can we make a motion for all three? All right. I will make a motion to approve council's recommendation for 42, 43, and 44.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Torbett, seconded by Commissioner Ferris, to accept council recommendation for cases 42, 43, and 44. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Are there any other cases up for discussion? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Hearing none, I believe that concludes the legal report for this month. Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Matlack. Mr. Caulfield, thank you. Any other business before the commission? Any further discussion? Anything commissioners want to talk about? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Have a great trip. Be safe going home, and we'll see you all in February.
Okay, good luck with it, is all I can say. Yes.
Good luck with what?
Chairman, good job.
30 minutes early.
I can get home.
Yeah,
I've been gone for so long.